just released the hacking about AT&T, 100 million customers. They are saying this is nearly every customer that they have. You guys, this is a significant problem. The first thing that I want to talk a little bit about before we talk about this article, because this article really hits at some things that I don't think the media has really been talking about. We're going to talk about this third-party platform and how this information was accessed. This article, I've never heard of these people before, but apparently they do a lot of work in the security world. Well, they've got some information here we want to see. What I want to talk about first, though, is this whole piece about the federal government saying, hey, don't tell the people yet. These 100 million customers whose accounts got hacked. Information. Now we're talking call logs, information like that, not the actual text messages themselves, but call logs and things of that nature. A worldwide, I don't know how big they are, but think about that. 100 million accounts, customers. Like, this is a big deal if the federal government is saying, shh, don't say anything yet. Don't say anything yet. You guys, let's go to this article. I want to bring this up so that we can have a little bit more of a conversation about this and know what's going on. This is coming from Krebs on security, in-depth security news and investigation. And this is why I came here, because I have a feeling these guys are a little bit more on top of it than we are. And you can see the date. The date here is July 12th, 2024. I'm actually recording this the next day, July 13th. It says disclosed today, this was yesterday, that a new data breach, and they have had others. Okay, AT&T has had others. A new data breach has exposed phone call and text message records for roughly 110 million people, nearly all of its customers, nearly everybody. AT&T said it delayed disclosing the incident in response to national security and public safety concerns. National security and public safety concerns. Now, it's interesting the way they say it here, because the way I read it in another article was that the federal government had asked them to hold off on making it public. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought I read. The federal government asked them to hold off on making this public. This is noting that some of the records included data that could be used to determine where call was made or text message sent. Okay, the logs. This is what we're talking about. It said it noted that some of this was protected only by a username and password. So no multi-factor authentication. It says cyber intruders accessed an AT&T workspace on a third-party cloud platform in April, downloading files containing customer call and text message interactions between May and October 2022. So it didn't happen in 2022. It sounds like it was downloaded in April. It says the company said stolen data includes records of calls. It does not include things like your social security numbers, okay? Nothing personally identifiable. It says there was a subset of stolen records, which included some information about the location of cell communication towers. Okay, so they can determine, where those calls were coming in from, or, where that hit was on that tower. So they've got some geolocation there. It says, while the data does not include customer names, there are often ways using publicly available online tools to find the name associated with a specific telephone number. And this is the concern that I mentioned in my previous video. And I shared a video from media, and there was a guy up there saying this very same thing. People have social media accounts, and they have information out there. And some people are using cell phone numbers publicly. And if you're using that information publicly, and now AT&T has it, well, they can just connect the dots. And it's like, oh, found this person, and then use that for whatever bad things that they want to do. It says they learned of the breach on April 19th. Okay, here we go. But delayed disclosing it at the request of federal investigators. Federal investigators. All right. Yep, it says here the FBI confirmed that it asked AT&T to delay notifying affected customers. Shortly after identifying a potential breach to customer data and before making its materiality decision, AT&T contacted the FBI to report the incident. I want to scroll down to this next piece here. It says AT&T, FBI, and DOJ worked collaboratively through the first and second delay process. But here's this piece where I'm going, okay? Because it's not just AT&T that may have been at risk here. Some other companies are using this very same third-party platform. It says TechCrunch. If you're familiar with them, you can go to their website and learn more about them. They publish information too. Quoted an AT&T spokesperson saying that the customer data was stolen as a result of a still unfolding data breach involving more than 160 customers of the cloud data provider Snowflake. Okay, so Snowflake. It says earlier this year, malicious hackers figured out that many major companies have uploaded massive amounts of valuable and sensitive customer data to Snowflake servers, all the while protecting those Snowflake accounts with little more than a username and password. Wired, another tech industry company, reported last month how the hackers behind the Snowflake data thefts purchased stolen Snowflake credentials from dark web services that sell access to usernames, passwords, and authentication tokens that are siphoned by information stealing malware. Now, we're going to get to some of the comments. Some of the comments below, say, hey, some of this is not really clear. But next part. For its part, Snowflake says it now requires all new customers to use multi-factor authentication. So it says now, and it only says new. Well, what about the customers that it already has? Well, I have a feeling that those customers are going back in and finding a way to now use multi-factor authentication after this. But here are some of the other companies. Look at this. Other companies with millions of customer records stolen from Snowflake servers. Look at this. Advanced Auto Parts, Allstate, that is your insurance provider. Think about that. Your car insurance, your home insurance, locating now possibly where you are. I don't know. What kind of information did they get? Anheuser-Busch, Los Angeles Unified, Mitsubishi, Neiman Marcus, Progressive, another insurance company, Pure Storage, a bank. We have a bank. State Farm, and Ticketmaster. Notice that 3 of these are insurance companies. What is the deal with the insurance companies? What is the deal with the insurance companies? So it sounds like there's some real concern here about this data breach. It says earlier this year, AT&T reset passwords for millions of customers after the company finally acknowledged a data breach from 2018 involving approximately 7.6 million current AT&T account holders and roughly 65.4 million former account holders. Well, I used to have an AT&T account way, way, way back in the day. I don't know, 30 years ago. I doubt if they still have those records. Yeah, I don't know, 40 years ago. All right. So yeah, so this person says, the only real use, look at this, the only real use for the data stolen in the most recent AT&T breach is to know who is contacting whom and how many times. Like I said, it looks like it's call records and logs, that kind of information. The person says, the most concerning thing to me about this AT&T breach of all customer call and text records is that this isn't one of their main databases. It is metadata on who is contacting whom, which makes me wonder, what would call logs without timestamps or names have been used for? So it remains unclear, at least what they say here. But yeah, so all of this is a major concern, I think. And I don't think we are going to see the end of this. I think there are going to be some more disclosures about this. And I think you're going to see more companies start to hamper down a little bit. Just we in general have to get a little bit more vigilant. And I've said this before, get a little bit more vigilant in terms of keeping our data safe and doing what we can, because there's so many people out there trying to steal it all the time, especially with so much that is electronic. And I think there is something going on behind the scenes here. You have the DOJ and the FBI involved, and yet you're saying it was just call logs and records. I don't know. It sounds interesting to me. Let me pull back up the comments because I do want to go through a few of the comments here. People had some thoughts and shared some things. This person says, I have a theory that this call log is being used for a national security investigation. Otherwise, why would this rise to the level of public safety / national security exemption? And what they're talking about, this exemption, they are supposed to report these data breaches. I believe it's in like 20 or 30 days. I want to say 30, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't hold me to that. But there is a time period. There's a deadline in place that these companies have to report these data breaches. And yet you had the federal government step in and say, wait, you're falling under the exemption now. Don't report it just yet. So I'm along with this person here that there's something else going on here. And this person then says, you are correct, sir. There is only one use case for the stolen data: social network analysis. Remember PRISM, someone using AI tools. Why would AT&T be doing social network analysis on their clients' call logs and locations outside of marketing? Maybe random hackers just happened to stumble into a government operation and stole the data, and in the process now they have to cover it up. I don't know. There is something else going on here. This person says there's a mistake. Okay, so I didn't really go over that part anyway. There are many ways to prevent brute force logins, repeated password guessing, time delays, filters, etc. There is no reason for any system to allow millions of failed password guesses, which is how breaches like this happen, other than phishing. The problem is, if you can steal a copy of the database and attack it offline, you can circumvent those protections. Look, these are people who are in the know. This is a security, or this is an article that's posted up here by a company that does security work. They have knowledge. These are the people you see here responding are not just your everyday people who don't know anything about security and protection. Yeah. Yeah. The rest of us are just in the dark. We're just in the dark. This person says to have this quantity and level of data without MFA should be a criminal offense. Here in the UK, a company would be very heavily fined. And it says no doubt a class action will result. Let me scroll down here. Somebody asking what OPSEC does. And it says, here's what this person says. This particular agency is overwhelmed, underfunded, and overridden. Company is going to do how a company do. Okay, the writing there is killing me. When it blows up, the company sacrifices the goat they have prepared, aka the CISO. They're sorry. So let me talk about this for just a minute. Here's one of the things. A lot of times, whatever the company is focusing on, which is usually profits, innovation, research, and then at the bottom down there comes like, things like maintenance and I don't want to say security and safety because that is a priority, but I think when you have a hierarchy and you only have a certain number of people working and they can only do a certain amount of work in a given day, yeah, something is going to fall through the cracks. And it looks like we can't keep up. And if you're talking about a government agency that is supposed to be responsible, well, yeah, you probably already know that they're underfunded and don't have enough people. This person says, this conduct by corporate America makes me sick. I was a CPA for 40 years, the last 27 with my own practice. Had I ever been hacked, I would have been finished out of business. This is the stuff that kept me awake at nights until corporate executives start going to prison for this kind of behavior, and other corporate bad behavior will continue to happen. They need to be held accountable. So here's the thing to say about this. You're looking at AT&T, right? This person is talking about, he's a little guy, little company, and he's worried about it. I mean, and that makes sense. He's probably got a limited number of staff, a limited amount of income, and yet he's trying to figure out how to get it all done. And he's probably thinking in the back of my head, well, I could probably do this part better. I could probably do that part better. And I'm worried that I'm going to slip up and somebody's going to get in there and get some of this information. Where you have this bigger company with access to a whole lot more resources and they could do a whole lot better. And yet they choose not to, because that's what it feels like when you go, well, let me pull up the profits from the first 2 quarters of the year, because that's how far we are into 2024. And if you tell me those profits are through the roof, then I'm like him. you obviously had the money to be able to invest and do better with your security. So why didn't you? And then to the rest of us, it starts to look like corporate greed. And we go, well, that's what it sounds like. So therefore, you should be held accountable because you did, in fact, have the resources where you could have done something differently. This is not like the little guy over here who has a smaller amount of resources, less time, less people, and is struggling to get everything done. You over here, you're like, big deal. Why can't you get it done? Why can't you get it done? So there's some questions about that. And the other thing I will say, and I say this all the time, these bad people out here, these scammers and hackers and fraudsters, they are just working hard and they will outwork us. Sometimes I feel like they will outwork us. It says, my relative in Canada, a businessman, complains about the cellular service guardrails you have to deal with there compared to the Wild West market south of the border in the third world. Not today. Our eyes, something, are rolling. Freedom requires eternal vigilance, especially by and for the lazy, ignorant, or irresponsible. Yeah. All right, so I'm not going to go through all of these. This person says AT&T customer here. I did hear from them this morning. Okay, so that's yesterday. This person is saying, I heard from them this morning. Well, the email arrived last night, but I only saw it this morning. I'm being asked to update my email preferences. They are saying I'm in control of how and what AT&T communicates with me. There is a link to email preferences and a link to privacy policy. Nice timing. When will we know all the companies involved in the snowflake incident? Exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about. This is not just an AT&T thing. This is not just an AT&T thing. These companies could have chosen to use two-factor authentication with their Snowflake accounts, and many of them enforce 2FA for their customers. So it's not like they don't know. Yeah. I hadn't heard about the breach until this afternoon. I also got the letter about email preferences and considered it spam. Do not follow any of the links in there unless you trust them. Again, you can always go directly to AT&T's website to find this information, or go to your account and go in that way. It says, it remains unclear why so many major corporations persist in the belief that it is somehow acceptable to store so much sensitive customer data with so few security protections. It's not at all unclear. These corporations know that using proper security staff and procedures will take a tiny bite out of the profits they provide to their investors. Well, I just had that conversation, didn't I? Let's see what else we got here. Amazing that all of their customers are impacted, yet they reported this not as a materialistic incident, yet bother reporting it in the first place. This is as bad as it gets from a brand reputation impact, but won't be material. Companies will continue to follow suit unless company cannot operate whatsoever. I always thought Snowflake was an unsuitable name for a company. Okay, I'm going to have to agree with you on that. So when I was reading the article, I sort of thought to myself, so why in the world would you name your company Snowflake if people are uploading data and information or are using it servers, and I'm not even sure what it does. But the moment that I saw that that was the name of the company, I was just like, okay, you totally need a rebrand here. And I'm not entirely sure who told you that was the name to go with, but that person needs to be reassigned because obviously that is not their best skill set. Yeah, it says, I always thought Snowflake was an unsuitable name for a company that stored data, as snowflakes are rather lacking in persistence, but now it seems so much more appropriate. Okay, that is so wrong. I don't even know what to say. I would have to pull this one out and do like a totally separate piece on Snowflake is not the name to go with. That's going to be the name of that video. The answer is to punish AT&T board of directors and shareholders via unimaginable punitive fines, since that will never be done because of the hypocrisy inherent in corporations and human ownership of such. The breaches will continue. I don't know what, now I'm going to have to go look at prison. Too big to fail corporations are not set for PPI security. They exist to create profit and facilitate telecom for the general public. So that's it. Again, giving a shout out to this company. I'm not familiar with them, but I think they just did very good job of summing up some of this. I'm definitely going to check out some of the other links that they put in the TechCrunch article, the Wired article, to see what further information we can find out about this, because I think this is a really big deal given the number of accounts that we're talking about, given the third-party platform that got access, and given the other major US companies that also use this platform. So this is very interesting. So stay tuned. We're going to follow this. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.